For centuries, Earth had been catalogued by distant civilizations as a primitive and inconsequential world. Alien observers considered its inhabitants intellectually limited, technologically backward, and militarily insignificant. Reports circulated through interstellar councils describing humanity as a curiosity at best, a species that had barely mastered its own planet, with internal conflicts, fragile ecosystems, and limited influence beyond its atmosphere. Earth was marked, in official galactic records, as a world to ignore, unworthy of conquest, and incapable of posing a threat. The first hints of interstellar contact were subtle: long-range probes, scanning arrays, and satellites that recorded human activity. Alien scientists noted the ingenuity of humans in agriculture, architecture, and basic engineering, yet they dismissed it as primitive adaptation. Even early communications attempts were met with polite curiosity, misinterpreted as random signals rather than intelligent engagement. Humanity was a species of minor interest, destined to remain a footnote in the galaxy's expansive chronicles, yet beneath this assumption of weakness lay a hidden resilience. Humans had survived cataclysms, pandemics, and centuries of resource scarcity. They had built complex societies, created art, philosophy, and technology, and adapted to environmental challenges with surprising creativity. These qualities went unnoticed because they did not fit the aliens' rigid models of technological progress and interstellar capability. The first encounter with alien scouts was meant to confirm the galaxy's assumptions. Small ships approached Earth, conducting discrete observation missions to verify that humans were indeed primitive. They expected disorganized, predictable behavior. They expected fear. They expected submission. Instead, they found adaptation, resilience, and subtle ingenuity. Humans were not reacting according to the aliens' models, they were responding with unexpected innovation, improvisation, and collective intelligence. By the end of Part 1, Earth's status as primitive had begun to crack, not because humans had shown overwhelming force, but because their adaptability and creativity were impossible for the aliens to fully comprehend. A quiet tension began to grow. The galaxy's predictions were wrong, and the seeds of what would become a global conflict were quietly being planted. The aliens' assumptions about Earth and humanity began to unravel. Having labeled humans as primitive, they expected minimal resistance to surveillance, experimentation, or even exploitation. Early probes and emissaries were sent to gather data, test reactions, and prepare the planet for eventual integration into galactic systems. But humans, though appearing disorganized and technologically limited on the surface, demonstrated a subtle and dangerous ingenuity that the aliens had not anticipated: initial attempts at interference, remote observation, minor environmental manipulation, and controlled experiments, were met with adaptive responses. Humans improvised solutions to problems that the aliens assumed would overwhelm them. Infrastructure was rapidly repaired or repurposed, communication networks rerouted, and small-scale technological systems were ingeniously manipulated to disrupt alien sensors. What the aliens perceived as chaos or error was in reality strategic, adaptive intelligence. On the psychological front, human behavior further confounded the observers. Societies organized swiftly under stress, coordinating large-scale responses to unexpected events. Even in crises engineered by the aliens, humans showed resilience and creativity, turning disadvantages into advantages. Diplomatic or exploratory missions by alien emissaries were met with clever negotiation, improvisation, or subtle misdirection, leaving the aliens unsure whether humans were aware of the observation, and if so, to what degree. Alien command centers grew increasingly frustrated. Reports became contradictory. Data suggested humans were primitive, yet actions consistently defied prediction. Algorithms failed, simulations collapsed, and models of behavior could not account for humans' ability to adapt in real time. Analysts noted patterns of improvisation that suggested not only intelligence but strategic awareness. Every misstep humans appeared to make only enhanced their ability to manipulate circumstances to their advantage. By the end of Part 2, the first signs of underestimation's danger became apparent. The aliens, confident in their control and knowledge, began to realize that humans were not simply surviving, they were learning, adapting, and subtly outmaneuvering them at every turn. The stage was being set for a confrontation, one in which the species once dismissed as primitive would reveal a potential for strategy, creativity, and resilience that could challenge even the most advanced alien civilizations. The aliens' underestimation of humanity was turning into a dangerous oversight. Their initial assumption, that humans were primitive, disorganized, and easily manageable, was being shattered. Every attempt to observe, control, or influence Earth only revealed new layers of human ingenuity. What had begun as a quiet study was now an escalating tension, as humans began subtly asserting agency in ways the aliens could neither predict nor control. Early incursions by alien scouts were met with unexpected resistance. Humans improvised defensive strategies using limited technology, repurposed tools, and environmental advantages. Communication networks were disrupted not by brute force, but through clever rerouting and deceptive signals. Even small-scale interventions by alien observers were foiled through clever misdirection, revealing humans' capacity for tactical thought and anticipatory action. The psychological impact on the aliens was growing. Analysts had expected predictable fear, compliance, and submission from humans. Instead, they observed calm determination, adaptive responses, and strategic improvisation. Minor errors or accidents in human behavior were frequently exploited to gain advantages in unexpected ways. Humans were learning from every observation, turning alien assumptions into tools for their own adaptation. On a societal level, humans began to organize with surprising efficiency. Communities that appeared fragmented coordinated rapidly under stress, creating improvised networks for communication, resource management, and defense. Scientists and engineers innovated on the fly, creating solutions that alien observers had deemed impossible for a primitive species. Each step reinforced the unsettling conclusion: humans were more resourceful and resilient than the aliens had predicted. By the end of Part 3, the aliens began to experience the first stirrings of fear. Their data no longer painted a simple picture of a weak, primitive species. They now confronted evidence of intelligence, strategy, and adaptability that threatened their assumptions. The stage was being set for the moment when observation would turn into confrontation. Humanity, long dismissed as inconsequential, was quietly preparing to assert itself, and the galaxy's perception of Earth was about to be irreversibly transformed. The aliens' underestimation of humanity had escalated into full-blown miscalculation. What had been intended as a simple observational mission was rapidly transforming into a strategic dilemma. The humans they had dismissed as primitive were demonstrating an unprecedented combination of adaptability, ingenuity, and tactical awareness, challenging the very foundations of alien assumptions. Alien reconnaissance missions encountered increasingly sophisticated resistance. Humans manipulated technology in ways that confounded sensors and communication systems. Surveillance drones were misled, energy signals rerouted, and satellite tracking disrupted, not through advanced weaponry, but through improvisation, resourcefulness, and clever environmental manipulation. What the aliens had labeled primitive problem-solving was in fact an extraordinary capacity to exploit variables in real time. On the ground, human societies adapted with remarkable cohesion. Communities rapidly organized to counter alien interference, using unconventional strategies that turned environmental and technological limitations into tactical advantages. Engineers repurposed simple machinery to produce defensive systems, while scientists leveraged natural phenomena in ways the aliens had not anticipated. Even seemingly minor actions, such as redirecting resources or adjusting communication signals, created cascading effects that destabilized alien predictions. The alien psychological state deteriorated. Analysts and commanders, confident in their models and technology, found themselves confounded. Algorithms repeatedly failed to predict human behavior, simulations collapsed under unanticipated variables, and every plan to control or influence the species was thwarted. Reports began to reflect a growing realization: humans were not just reactive, they were proactive, adaptive, and capable of strategic foresight. Alien emissaries attempting direct engagement experienced unexpected outcomes. Diplomatic gestures were met with calculated responses that subtly revealed human awareness of alien intentions. Minor deceptions and improvisations created scenarios in which aliens unknowingly revealed weaknesses, while humans remained in control of every interaction. Confidence, once assumed to be theirs by default, eroded rapidly. By the end of Part 4, the aliens faced a sobering truth: Earth was no longer a primitive world. Its inhabitants were capable of intelligence, strategy, and adaptation that rivaled the most advanced civilizations. The seeds of war, long dormant in the background of galactic observation, were beginning to germinate. The species they had underestimated was preparing to assert itself, and the galaxy's perception of Earth as inconsequential was about to be shattered. That the alien perception of Earth as a primitive world had completely unraveled. What began as a distant observation mission had now evolved into a precarious confrontation. Humans, once assumed to be weak and predictable, were demonstrating tactical awareness, ingenuity, and adaptability on a scale the aliens had not anticipated. Every attempt to assert control or gather unchallenged intelligence was met with clever countermeasures and improvisation. Alien fleets attempted limited incursions to test humanity's defenses. These missions, intended as minor engagements, quickly revealed humans' ability to exploit both natural and technological environments. Orbital sensors were jammed, reconnaissance drones hijacked or misdirected, and minor skirmishes on the ground turned into traps where alien units were delayed or incapacitated. Humans used rudimentary technology in innovative ways, combining simple tools with environmental advantages to neutralize advanced alien devices. On the societal level, humans coordinated with astonishing efficiency. Communities that had previously appeared fragmented or disorganized rapidly implemented emergency protocols, creating communication networks, resource distribution systems, and defensive strategies that confounded alien analysis. Scientists and engineers improvised with available materials to craft solutions that were both unexpected and effective, demonstrating strategic foresight that defied the primitive label. Psychologically, alien command was faltering. Confidence in superior technology and calculated tactics gave way to uncertainty and alarm. Analysts struggled to interpret human behavior, noting patterns of anticipation, improvisation, and manipulation that no algorithm could predict. What the aliens had assumed were accidental or random occurrences were revealed to be deliberate, controlled responses designed to exploit assumptions, mislead observers, and create tactical advantage. Human ingenuity extended beyond technology and logistics. Psychological resilience and adaptive thinking were equally potent weapons. Minor deceptions, strategic misinformation, and environmental manipulation created cascading effects that left alien forces uncertain at every turn. Diplomacy, social coordination, and tactical improvisation merged seamlessly, demonstrating a level of sophistication that the aliens had never encountered in a species they had assumed primitive. By the end of Part 5, the aliens were forced to admit a stark reality: their assumptions were catastrophically wrong. Earth's inhabitants were neither weak nor predictable. They were intelligent, resourceful, and capable of transforming even minor disadvantages into decisive advantages. The galaxy's perception of Earth as a primitive, inconsequential planet was crumbling, and the seeds of a conflict in which humans would assert their dominance were fully sown. That the confrontation between humans and alien forces had intensified. The aliens, having initially dismissed Earth as primitive, now faced a species whose intelligence, adaptability, and strategic foresight far exceeded expectations. Every incursion, every observation attempt, and every intervention by the aliens had been met with ingenuity and improvisation that neutralized their technological advantage. Humans began orchestrating larger-scale defenses. Cities and industrial centers were transformed into hubs of tactical coordination, integrating civilian and military resources. Engineers repurposed machinery, weapons, and even captured alien technology, creating improvised systems that turned supposed weaknesses into strengths. Communication networks were adapted for rapid information sharing and decentralized decision-making, ensuring that no single disruption could destabilize human strategy. Alien reconnaissance efforts increasingly failed. Drones, satellites, and monitoring stations were tricked or neutralized through deliberate human misdirection. The aliens' algorithms, designed to anticipate predictable behavior, repeatedly failed. Humans exploited environmental features, mountains, rivers, forests, and urban landscapes, to create traps and defensive positions that leveraged both ingenuity and familiarity with their planet. What had been assumed to be primitive improvisation was revealed as tactical mastery. On a psychological level, alien commanders experienced growing anxiety and doubt. Reports circulated that humans were not merely reactive, they were anticipatory. Every seemingly random act had underlying strategic value. Analysts admitted privately that the humans were aware of alien observation, capable of manipulating outcomes, and consistently turning disadvantage into advantage. Confidence, once taken for granted, had been replaced with hesitation and fear. Human coordination extended beyond technology into social and logistical systems. Communities rapidly adapted to threats, organizing defense and support networks that maximized resource efficiency and tactical flexibility. Even when under direct alien pressure, humans demonstrated calm, collective decision-making that ensured minimal disruption to overall strategy. Every encounter reinforced the realization that Earth's inhabitants were far from primitive, they were masters of their own environment. By the end of Part 6, the aliens had fully recognized the magnitude of their misjudgment. The species they had intended to study, underestimate, and perhaps even control had transformed the encounter into a confrontation in which humans dictated the terms. The stage was set for a full-scale demonstration of human ingenuity, resilience, and tactical dominance, proving beyond doubt that Earth was far from the primitive world the galaxy had assumed it to be. Humans had shifted from reactive defense to proactive strategy. The aliens, who had initially considered Earth a primitive and inconsequential world, now faced a species capable of orchestrating complex, large-scale operations. Humans were no longer merely surviving, they were actively dictating the terms of the conflict. Exploiting alien assumptions, and demonstrating a level of ingenuity and foresight that the invaders could neither predict nor counter, alien fleets attempting coordinated attacks encountered unprecedented resistance. Humans used terrain, infrastructure, and improvised technologies to neutralize superior alien forces. Orbital interference grids were disrupted, communication relays hijacked, and ships caught in traps engineered from a combination of natural planetary features and human-devised tactics. Even the most advanced alien sensors and weapons were confounded, revealing humans' ability to adapt in real time to any threat. On the surface, human societies operated with near-perfect coordination. Military units, scientists, engineers, and civilians collaborated seamlessly. Civilian populations contributed through logistics, intelligence gathering, and environmental manipulation, while engineers repurposed alien technology to create defensive systems that multiplied human effectiveness. Improvisation and adaptability became a hallmark of human strategy, consistently turning disadvantage into tactical advantage. Psychologically, the aliens were unraveling. Their confidence and arrogance had been replaced by hesitation, doubt, and fear. Analysts reported patterns in human behavior that no model could predict, while commanders struggled to make decisions under constant uncertainty. Every misstep by the aliens was magnified by human ingenuity, creating a growing sense of vulnerability among even the most advanced alien forces. Humans also leveraged deception and misdirection on a strategic scale. False signals, environmental traps, and staged retreats drew alien forces into carefully prepared positions where their technology and numerical superiority became liabilities. The aliens began to realize that their approach, assumed superior, was being systematically exploited. What had been considered random human errors were revealed to be deliberate, calculated maneuvers. By the end of Part 7, the aliens fully acknowledged the consequences of underestimating Earth. Humans had evolved from a species labeled primitive to one capable of dominating encounters with technologically superior forces. Fear had replaced curiosity, respect had replaced disdain, and the stage was set for the final phase, humanity's full assertion of its strategic and adaptive dominance. The war that the galaxy had underestimated was entering its decisive moments, and Earth's inhabitants were poised to redefine their place in the cosmos. The war that had begun as a series of misunderstandings and underestimations had reached its peak. The aliens, who had once dismissed Earth as primitive, were now fully aware that they had severely misjudged humanity. Every assumption about weakness, predictability, or incapacity had been shattered. Humans were no longer passive observers of events, they were active strategists, shaping every outcome to their advantage. Human forces orchestrated a final, decisive phase. Urban centers, industrial zones, and natural landscapes had been transformed into interconnected hubs of defense and strategy. Engineers and scientists repurposed alien technology, combined it with human innovation, and created devices that neutralized enemy weapons, misdirected energy signatures, and disabled advanced surveillance. Civilian populations acted as intelligence networks, gathering information, communicating threats, and supporting tactical operations. What had once seemed chaotic was revealed as a highly coordinated, intelligent system. Alien fleets, despite superior technology and firepower, were systematically neutralized. Ships were caught in traps engineered with both precision and adaptability. Energy grids disrupted navigation, orbital defenses forced vessels into predictable patterns, and miscommunication spread confusion throughout the alien command structure. The humans' mastery of improvisation, foresight, and strategy had turned the entire battlefield into a demonstration of tactical supremacy. On the ground, humans displayed resilience, intelligence, and unity. Every apparent weakness, limited resources, environmental challenges, and technological gaps, was transformed into an advantage. Improvised defensive systems, adaptive countermeasures, and clever manipulation of alien expectations left the invaders disoriented and incapable of mounting an effective response. Even when aliens attempted to retreat or regroup, humans anticipated their movements, exploiting every opportunity to consolidate advantage. Psychologically, the aliens were defeated long before physical engagement concluded. Confidence had been replaced with fear, arrogance with hesitation. Reports circulated that humans were not just surviving, they were dictating the terms of every encounter. Every attempt to study, control, or conquer the species had backfired. Leaving alien forces to acknowledge their vulnerability in the face of human intelligence and adaptability, by the story's conclusion, Earth was no longer perceived as primitive. Humans had demonstrated creativity, resilience, and strategic mastery that commanded respect and fear across the galaxy. The aliens withdrew, cautious and humbled, leaving humanity to rebuild and strengthen its position. Earth's inhabitants had survived, adapted, and emerged victorious, not through sheer force alone, but through ingenuity, adaptability, and the unpredictable power of a species once underestimated. The final scene depicts humans standing resolute, overseeing a world transformed into a bastion of tactical and technological prowess. While alien fleets retreat into the cosmos, forever aware that they had underestimated a species capable of turning the tides of war through intellect, unity, and unyielding will. Humanity had claimed its place not as a primitive world, but as a dominant, resilient, and formidable force in the galaxy.